Before we start today's video, I just want to give a big shout out to all you guys who've been leaving comments, especially on the first video. A lot of these are really useful tips and tricks, and the Alice board project is taking a lot longer than I originally wanted to, but with these comments I think I'll have a better chance of getting it solved. I also want to thank you guys for just watching in general. It means the world to me. These videos were recorded several weeks in advance, so if you left a comment on the last video, as of this video, I haven't quite seen it yet, but nonetheless, I really appreciate the support. Thank you guys so much, and on to today's video.
We're in my car now. Now, one of the reasons why we're in my car is because recently I've been having a bit of a problem. See, this is my 2017 Volvo S60, and today we're going to talk about interior design and why I think this car has some of the worst interior design that I've seen in a long time. And not because it's not good, but just because it's outdated.
When we discuss car design, we normally spend a lot of time focusing on the exterior, but interior design is just as important too. It's more accessible, generally cheaper, and considering this is where people spend most of their time, it's important that a car is designed well on the inside. Material choices, seat colors, tech, positioning, all go into consideration when designing the cabin of a car. It can get really pricey just configuring all the options, and changing out a car interior is a job for a professional, or at least a person with a lot of time. Which brings me to my car. Now, you see, in 2011, Volvo released the P3 S60 with this interior. Push to start, T9 dialing, full color non-touchscreen, not bad. Here's what my 2011 MKZ Hybrid looked like. And here's what a 2011 Audi A4 interior looks like just for comparison. Overall, not a bad selection. The MKZ gets touchscreen with Microsoft Sync, but whatever, it wasn't good to begin with anyways. Now let's look again at our competitors. My car is a 2017, so we'll be looking at 2017s. Here's a 2017 Lincoln MKZ interior, and now here's a 2017 Audi A4 interior, and here's finally my car's interior. What the f is this? Besides minor changes like the speedometer, which now looks like this instead of this, we still have the same clunky interior that we did before, even with the car getting a new engine, facelift, and tech under the hood. And this interior looks the same from 2011 all the way up till its final year in this model in 2018. And by the way, that Audi photo was taken from a base spec. This is what a higher trim A4 looks like. And this is what a higher trim S60 looks like. Huh? I mean, just compare the upgraded TFT in a Volvo versus the Audi virtual cockpit. It's night and day. But you know what all those other cars have that the Volvo doesn't? Apple CarPlay, which in case anybody was curious came on 2014. For the entire life cycle of the P3 S60 from 2011 to 2018, it never got Apple CarPlay, ever. And I wanted to change that.
So naturally, in order to rectify this issue, I went on a bit of a search. I hit up Sweet Speeds, a Volvo specific forum for my year or model car, which is a 2017 P3 S60, and I wasn't finding a lot of options that were friendly for me, especially in my budget. Options from different audio companies costing somewhere between $400 and $700, even though I still had to do the install and it didn't come with a backup camera, seemed a little bit unfair. And that's one of the things about these cars, is that getting parts for them can be really hard. So considering this is a Volvo, and Volvo is owned by Geely, I decided that my best bet would be to go online on somewhere like AliExpress or Alibaba or somewhere like that and see if I could find an option, which led me to this. This box is a ZTU audio or auto box, which is supposed to give us Apple CarPlay for any of the supported cars here. So you can see here, we have the S60 / the V60 / the XC60, the V40, and the S80, anything from that P3 platform. This box is supposed to give us added wireless Apple CarPlay function. And today I'm going to explain to you how I found this box, and then we're going to go ahead and get this box installed so that anybody else who's viewing this who might own a Volvo this same year, this P3 model year, can find this for cheap and install in their car and see how it works. And for anybody else for future reference who's looking for a reliable source to find these, I can put a link in the comment section down below. So this video is a lot less about design and more about fixing some of the issues of interior design within my car.
While there are undoubtedly better options that I could have gone with from bigger companies, I decided to go with this box that I found at AliExpress because it had a Black Friday sale and it only cost $177. Now, some of the other options from IA Auto and stuff like that might have been better for the European market, but considering that I wanted to do this on a budget, this was the best thing I got. Once the package arrived, everything was actually pretty straightforward. What we got inside the box was our audio box, labeled in blue. This was actually metal. It was freezing cold when I picked it up. And then in addition to that, we got a couple of extra options, including an instruction manual, which was very useful in the installation progress, some Velcro and an antenna, which we're going to use for our Wi-Fi later on, our power cable with a splicer along with any other cables we need for our backup cameras, and our USB cable, a trim removal tool, and last but not least, this blue cable, which allows us to connect directly to our screen and directly to our box. We're actually going to go first person mode so that we can see the instructions here, and I can give you a point of view installation guide. So I actually have my GoPro mounted to the brim of my hat that I was wearing earlier, and now that we've seen what's inside of the box, we know what to expect. So here we have a pretty simple printed out instruction with a QR code in the back so that we can get help if we ever need it, contacting on WhatsApp and all these other platforms. And so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. So the main thing to realize is that this is all one big centerpiece that pops out. So this entire thing that we're currently looking at is one big centerpiece that pops out. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to remove this and have it come completely out. The shift knob and stuff like that right here is also one big centerpiece. So you can see here, if we keep going through the instruction. Okay, so when removing the panel from your Volvo, the first thing you want to do is start with this panel right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pry tool. This was included in the box with everything we got, and we're going to remove the panel right here. Okay, so as you guys can see, I went ahead and was able to get this out. We do have a cable connecting to our hazard switch right here. We can go ahead and detach that, just so we can get this out of the way. So we want to put this off to the side. Be very careful, the clips are very strong. You might accidentally break one. I accidentally broke one right there, unfortunately. But this is the best I can do, is to get this first part out. So that's the first thing you want to do. Put that off to the side, and then we'll have access to parts right here. So this is where things start to go wrong, because I mistakenly forgot that I actually don't own the proper Torx bits that I need to do this project. I originally thought that I had the right one, but what I really needed was a T20 Torx bit, and what I had was a T40 Torx bit. So I ended up having to go all the way to my local Home Depot, walking down the aisles, and then buying this Torx Husky bit for like $27, which will add to the total cost of our project. But other than that, make sure you have proper Torx bits from your local hardware store. Okay, so back where we left off, we now have our tools, and we will be using a T20 volt on these to get this out. So let's go ahead and get this open. So after I was done, I was left with 2 long screws and 4 short screws for the top. Now the only thing holding the panel in back was the 2 other T20 screws that I had in the back. So I decided to quickly grab a wrench and head straight to the back and start getting to work on that. Okay, so now that we have the screws out from behind here, what we can do is we could take our trim tool and go ahead and pry this plastic panel up. So we're gonna take our trim tool and slowly start down here and work our way up. And the whole thing should come off really easily. I just have a couple of cables I had to disconnect, and we should be all set. So once I got the panel out, I realized that the only thing keeping it connected was that green plug at the bottom there, and that was what was connecting it to the front panel's controls. See, these actually had little clips on the side that was making it hard for me to get them out, but once I was able to get those clips out, it was all smooth sailing from there. So make sure to look out for those. Okay, so now we have this radio right here that we're going to start working on. So there are 2 screws right there, which you guys can't see. Let me get my flashlight for you. Right in the corner, and one right in this other corner right there. They're also T20 Torx bits. So we're going to get that out, and we're going to start to work at the radio. Now this is the part where you start to feel like Hercules working for the gods of Olympus. Now our next challenge was to get the panel off of the front screen so that we can have access to it. Now the big issue is that it's not really hard to do. You just work your pry tool all the way around, but for some reason this was particularly hard. I don't think that Volvo initially intended for people to have access to it, but it was very important for us to get this off, especially with all the metal clasps holding it together, making it very difficult, but putting it back on was a cinch. Okay, so this is where I made my first mistake. Now, in some versions of this Apple CarPlay accessory, they'll ask you to install it directly to the screen. With this one, what you want to do is you want to take, let me just flip the pages. Switching to iPhone view again. So what we have here is we have our male to female connector connected directly into the original port and then plugged into this. And then we will take this cable at the end here and plug it directly into our box. This is the part of the process that I was dreading the most, which was that optical cable in the original Volvo power supply. So we actually have a splicer where we had to transfer over that cable with these two little clasps at the top, and then we use this dummy cable to plug into our original radio, and then that gets adapted into our new blue box. And then for some reason I decided to completely have a problem plugging it in. No matter what I was doing, it wasn't working until I realized that there's a whole safety clasp that I'm supposed to be using. So when connecting the quad lock, you want to make sure that this part is actually up, or it's basically impossible for you to get this in. So we're going to go ahead and connect that, check on both sides to make sure that they're lined up. So now what we have to do here is we have to take this orange optical cable and transplant it in the same spot as it was before on the previous one. Okay, so now we have it in the exact same spot before. The cables are a little bit jumbled together. So what you want to do is you want to take this cable and we're going to push it back here, because this is going to be the new connector that connects to our old radio. Next thing you want to do is basically route the cables up over the HVAC system into the glove compartment. That's where we're going to be putting our cable, and that's what's going to allow us to connect to the radio without having any cables exposed. Lift right here, make sure that that's always lifted, or else it won't be able to connect. The next thing to figure out was where I wanted to put the box, so I decided that I was going to put it on top of the radio. It didn't work, so I ended up putting it in the glove compartment instead. Then I took the power cable / dummy cable from our old radio that we worked on earlier, plugged that in. Then I took our microphone jack, plugged that in as well, and then finally took our blue cable and plugged it in to give us video to our screen from our box. Okay, so we now have the radio back in. I did lose one of these T20 screws straight to the void. Whoever owns this car next, I apologize, but there's really nothing I can do about that. So we're gonna go ahead and put the rest of the panel back on, basically doing everything we did before, but in reverse. Okay, so we now have the entire dash put back together. We do have our screen working. You can see here our screen is working. So the only thing we have to do is here at our box is our dip code. You can see here that it's lighting up red. Let me get closer for you. And we have to change that because we have an I don't know if you guys can see that, but we have an S60. So we have to change the number 5 switch down with the power on. Okay, so the number 5 dip is down, everything else is on. So according to our little instructione, okay, so our operating instructions for steering wheel: press and hold for 2 seconds to enter the system page. So we're gonna hold exit. Oh my God, it's working. So we now have our Apple CarPlay, like a little system box right here. And so we also can use our touchpad here as well. It's what they call it, a touchpad. It's our control panel pad, but we do have Apple CarPlay running officially on the Volvo. At least that's the theory. So here I shot some B-rolls so that you could take a look and see that the Apple CarPlay is in fact fully functioning. It's completely wireless, connected to my phone. I have the box in the glove compartment wired through with all the cables hidden. My HVAC controls and everything is working. The only thing is it won't show the exact numbers. But other than that, I didn't really have a problem with this overall. The steering wheel controls work perfectly fine. If we hold down exit, it takes us all the way back to the menu, or it takes us all the way back to our home screen, which is exactly what I want. And that way the HVAC controls display as normal with no interference. It's been a couple of days since I first installed the ZTU auto box inside of my car, and so far I've been really impressed. The only issues that I've been having so far was initially on the first installation. The screen brightness and contrast wasn't too great, but you can easily fix that in your settings to be to your liking. Sometimes Apple CarPlay has an issue where my Google Maps doesn't display, but my Apple Maps does. I don't know if this is an issue with this particular box, if it's an issue with my phone and Apple CarPlay, but it happens nonetheless. Biggest issue that I've come across so far is that sometimes my phone decides to connect to my Volvo directly and not the Volvo connecting to the box, which is something we want to make sure is happening. Because it kind of brings us a sort of unwanted latency. For under $200, I was very impressed with what I was able to get from AliExpress. I mean, it came here in exactly about a week's time, and I didn't have to pay that much money for it. $188 plus $27 for the tools, which are
a must-have for any Volvo project anyway, so I'm not even gonna count that towards the total cost. And the only thing that I would change personally is opting to get the touchscreen module instead, just because working with the controls on the steering wheel is a little bit finicky. They seem to be inverted in a way that's really annoying, but other than that, I would argue that this is a good value for anybody who's been wanting to add Apple CarPlay to your P3 Volvo but hasn't been able to justify the cost of buying one of the more expensive boxes. I know that this is not a typical design video, and I know that I said that this channel is going to be focusing a lot more on designing things and building, but the DIY aspect of adding Apple CarPlay to a modern car is something that I feel that's really oftentimes overlooked, especially from manufacturers that are a little bit more niche like Volvo. To me, good design is not just what we can create. It's also taking implementations and tools from other people and using it to upgrade tools and implementations that already exist. So if this was a video that you guys enjoyed seeing, or if this video helped you out, I would really appreciate it if you left me a comment with some thoughts and opinions on what you might want to see me do next. And then, let me know if it helped you out. Leave a like, subscribe. I definitely intend to do more car videos in the future. I think that auto design, interior design specifically, is really underrated and underutilized. And I definitely want to make sure that as I continue to design more things and update more things, that I bring a sort of DIY approach to things that isn't just, I have $3,000 worth of equipment and nobody can do this at home, but it's sort of a thing that a person could do in their garage on an average Saturday. So I've been Ray. This is my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.